I was delighted. It was a few weeks ago, someone rang me up that had heard about the Bavard bar and said they wanted to give a talk, and I booked them for this slot. 2 days ago, they contacted me and said, "Terribly sorry, not feeling too good, so can't give the talk." So, as some of you who know me, I have a few talks that I can and have given over the years of various sorts of things. But I thought, well, I'm not going to trot one of those out again. I'm going to do a new one. So I have done a new one, which is very exciting. And I've kind of been inspired to do this talk, actually as a result of starting this Bavard bar, where there's been a whole range of talks on all sorts of passions and wonderful things. And two talks in particular have inspired me to give this talk tonight, which I have only really over the last sort of 24 hours sort of knocked together, so it's fairly rudimentary. But and the two talks that have really inspired me at the Bavard bar, both at the Eastbourne Bavard bar actually, were a talk given, I don't know if anyone was here, for Richard Garland's talk about peak experience, which was a fascinating insight into Ruff's, yeah, I remember that was downstairs when we had it downstairs, wasn't it? About how Richard runs very, very long distances in order to combat his mental health issues. And it was a fascinating and very, very remarkable and honest and open account of his journey, which was brilliant. And then who was here last month? There was a few people, where we heard from Kath Newell, who is an ex-Catalyst speaker, and she gave a lovely moving story about autism, a love story, which was a story about her son who was severely autistic, and she spoke about that, which was very moving. So, I'm going to give a talk tonight, and I have entitled it, right, I lost the clicker.
Oh, Tim.
Oh, thanks, Russell. So I have entitled it, yes, Me and Macular D. Okay, so it's a cheery little talk, but I've used the McDonald's logo because when I was saying to Bryony, who sorts out the IT, thank you Bryony for all of this, I was saying to Bryony the other day about, yesterday probably, about doing this talk. I thought, well, I don't want to sort of, I wanted to tell you this story, but I don't want to bring the tone of the Bavard bar down and make it too heavy. So I'm going to do it in a light way, but as I say, I was inspired by a couple of speakers that moved me to do this, so I thought I would share this with you. And Bryce said, when I said Macular D, she said, well, Macular D, you're doing a talk about McDonald's. So it's not about McDonald's. It's about Macular D. So there you go, there's a picture of me, obviously. You can clearly see that. 1990s squash champion, obviously. Shit haircut, but there we are. I wish I could have one like that now, but yes. So that was, it's obviously not me, but back in the early 90s, one of my passions was squash. And everything kind of ball and racket related, really, squash, badminton, tennis, etc. And I was, if you'd asked me my passion then, if I was going to give a talk at the Bavard bar about something I was passionate about, I would have spoken probably about my passion for racket sports and ball sports. That was the thing I was into. So, roll forward a number of years, back a number of years, but from the early 90s, roll forward to 1996, and I was 28 at the time, and I noticed I was reading some documents, I think it was at work or somewhere, and the lines on the text of these documents started to get wavy, and I thought that's not quite right. So and that's an image that's commonly used to demonstrate something known as macular degeneration. And you can see that the lines are wavy, so I thought it wasn't as bad as that back in 1996, but I thought, well, I'd better go down to A&E and see what's going on. And so I went down to A&E, and they had a look, and I figured they would make these lines less wavy, perhaps straighten them up. But turned out it wasn't quite that simple. they diagnosed this condition that I had called macular degeneration. And they said what happens is that at the back of the retina, debris and stuff collects, and that unfortunately leads to blood vessels which leak, and then unfortunately that then twists and distorts the vision. So they said it's not particularly simple to resolve. So that was that. They said they did have some treatment. This is back in the late 90s, as I say. They had some treatment which consisted of them firing a laser into the eye to then seal the blood vessels. And hopefully, they said that would work. But they did say there was only a 10% success rate. But given that was all there was on offer at the time, I took that 10% chance, and it worked for a few weeks. And then, unfortunately, as they predicted, the condition returned. So, and when it returned, they weren't then able to do anything else, so they had to just leave it. So this happened in my right eye back in 1996, and it meant that essentially the central vision of my right eye was then lost. So back then, that would have been early 97, I then wandered off into, I suppose, the land of the uniocular, if you like, which, to be honest with you, not much different to that of the binocular, in the sense that people don't really know that you're only seeing with one eye, essentially. But this was another one of my semi-loves, I suppose. I was finding it a bit boring to watch, but more interesting to play. And I turned up to play a game of cricket back in about 97, and realised actually it's not so easy with just one eye. So, there was a sort of period, I suppose, where because my previous passions were then harder to do, the sort of the ball coordination, the hand-eye coordination for racket sports and for games like cricket, I suppose I kind of went into this kind of transitional period of rebranding, if you like. And so I had to consider kind of other alternative pastimes. That was one of them I thought about, obviously, a career as a rock god. But I was perhaps lacking too much on the musical talent and again the hair, but anyway. So I skipped on being a rock god, and I took up windsurfing. That was the thing that I got into around about, I suppose, the late 90s, early 2000s. Windsurfing became my passion. So again, if I was going to give a talk at the Bavard bar about something I was passionate about in the early 2000s, then I would now be speaking to you about windsurfing. So I did that for a number of years and loved it. And everything was great until June 2011. Now, my daughter is here tonight, and she didn't know I was going to give this talk. She's heard me talk probably millions of times, far too many times, and she cares to remember, I suspect. But anyway, I will embarrass you just for 2 slides, Hannah, so apologies. So my daughter's here, and I think some of you may know Hannah, but she's here, and that's at a recent school prom, aged about 16 and a half, I think, I'm right, roughly. But, trying to put this in context, this was Hannah back in around 2011. Actually, that's not strictly true. I'm a single dad, so I don't actually archive the photos very well. This is probably about 2009. But I couldn't find any from 2011, sorry Hannah. But this was back in 2009. What I'm trying to get across, I suppose, is that at that time Hannah was about 10. And I remember I was reading, I don't know if Hannah can remember this, but I was reading Hannah a bedtime story at the time. I think it was a Michael Morpurgo book or something. And I noticed that with my one good eye, the left eye, the letters had started to get wavy again. And so I finished the story, kissed Hannah goodnight, went downstairs, and I think I probably said bugger a few times. May have said some other stuff, but bugger definitely came into it. And I called my girlfriend at the time. Now, I did have a slide to demonstrate the fact but I do have a girlfriend. No, I did have a girlfriend. Well, actually, no, you'll believe me, you'll believe me. So I called her up and I said, look, this has happened. And she said, well, let's go to Moorfields tomorrow and see what they say. I said, well, we can do that, but the treatment isn't fantastic. Anyway, she persuaded me to go, so I went up to Moorfields, and I spent the day there with loads of intrusive scans and stuff like that. In fact, just to get the sort of boring detail that way, that's a scan of a good eye, and you can see this is the retina here. That's the macular bit there. In fact, that scan is from someone who's a friend of mine. She's a nurse at one of the eye clinics I go to, and that's her good eye. That's my good eye, and you can see there's a bump where there shouldn't be a bump. And that one, that's my bad eye, so that's kind of all over the place. No chance with that one. Oh, no, sorry. I was going to give you a warning about that, but as you can see, this is the first time I've given this particular talk, so I was at Moorfields, had a day's sort of intrusive scanning going on. Those scans weren't taken there, they're more recent. And essentially by the end of the day I got to meet a consultant who said, look, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that there's no treatment for this and it's doom and gloom. Actually, you're wrong, there is treatment now. There's a series of drugs. One was called Avastin and others. And they work. So don't worry. The only thing you have to slightly worry about is that to deliver this drug, and if you're squeamish you can look away, we have to inject you in the eye. So I'll move on. I'll go back. So I can't remember what the next slide is after that one. We have to inject you in the eye, but the drug works. So that's the good news. So that's what they did. And the drugs, they work. And in fact, the whole kind of injecting in the eye business sounds terrible. There's a nursery rhyme, isn't there? Cross my heart and hope to die, stick a needle in my eye. It's one of those sort of things that you sort of, it sounds worse than it is. It really does, trust me, it's not too bad. And you would take it. But then, a couple of years ago, December 15, and also very recently, just at the beginning of this month, in fact, just after the last Bavard bar here, the condition returned. And when it does, they inject me again, but for some reason the drugs don't always have the correct effect. So they then have to throw in some other stuff. So they hit me with a big old dose of steroids, which, so if anyone wants an arm wrestle later, feel free. You will lose. But the point is, I suppose, that actually the drugs do work. So they have to try different things. And they do work, and they are working, and the vision in my good eye is slowly restoring, which is fantastic. So, virtually at the end of my allotted 15 minutes. Now I was looking, of course, we're going to talk about this, as I said at the start, very conscious that I didn't want to be too heavy, so I was looking for a light-hearted sign-off, and it wasn't so easy to find. But I came up with that one, but then realised, of course, that's the wrong message altogether. My future's so bright that I've got to wear shades. So that's really not the sort of sign off that I wanted. I wanted to end positively, so I settled on this one, which is essentially just to indicate, I suppose, that the message I was going to get across with this is that everything changes in life. We change. We grow old, we develop, and we change. And it's a constant process. We're all in a process of change all the time. It's just the rate of that change can be different. So currently, things are all good with my eyes, and the vision, as I said, is restoring. So that is positive. And on that very positive note, I shall end and take any questions. Thank you very much.